Right.
But I don't need to get 3 points out of it.
Well, and I think we have to continue down the discussion of we should have won. I mean, it's not an issue of even being in Kansas City. This is a game that we are better than they are. And
we came out.
It should have happened.
And we came out like shit.
Yeah, no, it didn't. It wasn't a good showing in the first.
We did.
15, 20 minutes of the game. It was pretty ugly, actually. And in fact, I think you'd say, or I would say, that Kansas City, Sporting KC, was unlucky not to take the lead early, like in the first 10 or 15 minutes.
They were unlucky, but you know what? They wanted it more, though.
Yeah, well,
I go into this game and I looked at it. I saw it. It's like they wanted it more than we did.
Yeah, I said it earlier. I mean, Sporting Kansas City, call it what you want, but they had the look of a desperate team. They had to win to really have a legitimate shot of staying in the race. Yeah. I mean, they're still on the outside looking in, but now they definitely, because they won the game, they have a chance.
Yeah,
so I think they were playing desperate.
One of the big things that I take from this game is anything can happen at any time, because we had our starting defensive line back there, and none of them looked solid.
No.
I saw mistakes across the entire back line, and I saw some people say, well, Ozzie wasn't in there. I'm sorry, but Ozzie's fantastic. That is not a reflection of Ozzie not being there.
David, I said that. And you know why I said that? Again, you know soccer better than I do. And so my whole thought of the Ozzie was not there thing was the fact that I think Ozzie and Ike talk to each other a little more than everybody else does. I think without having Ozzie there to kind of stream up the midfield a little bit, I think the defensive gets a little bit crazy.
Well, as your six, and then you can argue, I think, Tony, what you're essentially saying is that maybe, especially early in the game, the midfield was kind of letting the defense down. So the defense was being pressured more than maybe they should have been. And it was a whole question of, with this, kind of rotated lineup, there was questions of whether they were playing a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3.
Well,
I think that's what it was.
Even tell. There's a point.
You made that comment, what you couldn't tell what they were playing.
Yeah, and there was a point during the game that I actually thought it was a 4-4-2. So I mean, I think that's another issue, and I made this point between us is a lot of times, and this probably, I don't know if it falls on Heath or it falls on the players. It's a tough one, because when we don't play a 4-2-3-1, our formation and the way we set up and the way we organize kind of falls off.
It does.
And we look very kind of discombobulated and kind of out there. And I think there might have been an issue with the fact that not only did we change a formation, potentially change a formation, but we also potentially changed the formation with new guys,
right?
Which doesn't help things either.
No, it doesn't. Yeah, I think a couple of notes as we roll into halftime. There was a couple positives. I think it did start getting better around the half-hour mark, and right at, I think it was the 32nd minute, Dotson had a nice kind of long shot on goal. It could have been his fourth spectacular goal of the year.
He's made everything.
It was blocked, and then Toy had a chance on the rebound. Both were kind of big missed opportunities, I thought. Right. So I think it did get better going into halftime. Of course, it ended at halftime. It was still 0-0, a scoreless draw,
which is what they wanted.
Not surprising, I guess. Going into that game, Sporting Kansas City had significant possession. It was 60-40 possession-wise.
Let's talk about the 0-0 halftime for a second, Dave. We went to 0-0 halftime, and we were texting back and forth, and I was saying, I'll take that on the road.
Right.
Against, and you, David, you were saying that we should be better than this.
Yeah, well, David, you had the key comment during the game as we were watching it real time, and what was your comment? I think you know what I'm talking about. At about halftime, what did you say?
What did I say?
I think about the 60-minute mark was your the
60.
Key.
The
key for you.
I said, look, if we don't score, and we aren't winning by the 60th minute, we're going to lose this game.
Yeah.
And I think that was at halftime, wasn't it? Or was it
right after? That was right about halftime. But that makes sense too, because you're keeping a desperate team in the game longer than you should, because they can start making the more aggressive plays and substitutions.
And it makes it a lot more difficult to determine what players you need to substitute. Do you... If you're at 60 minutes and you haven't scored a goal, it's like, do you go for attack and possibly
that's a good transition.
Blow
that's a good
the defense?
transition, David. It's a very good transition.
Or do you go for the defense and say, okay, if we get a goal, fantastic, but we're going to go for 0 at this point?
Because you know what Heath did after the half.
He went full blown.
He went full blown.
Substitution.
He went crazy.
And it's some people questioned how crazy he went, but I think it makes sense again.
Yeah, it made
well,
sense.
At 0-0, I mean, you're sitting there thinking, do you sit back and play for that scoreless draw, or do you go for points that you can get? Here they are, 0-0 after halftime. They had looked better going into halftime.
You gotta go for it.
I think the better play after the half hour mark kind of made up Heath's mind.
Yeah,
I think he said, "Hey, these are points we can get now." Maybe if that poor midfield and defensive play had continued right up through halftime, he might have made a different choice. We could argue about what that would have been if you're looking for a defensive substitution, but he did not go defensive. 65th minute, a big one for everybody, I'm sure, at least fans of the Loons. Thomas Chacon
comes in
for Will Momby, and then just 4 minutes later, Darwin Quintero came in for Robin Lod. And it's nice to have those two players playing together, especially since Tommy Chacon, he doesn't speak English.
No, yes.
So at least he has a player like Darwin, that he can communicate on the field to, and that's what I was looking at earlier. Is what Tommy Chacon was looking at, and who he was looking at for direction, maybe in position.
Can we talk about Chacon for a little bit?
Well, we should, because it was his debut as a Minnesota United player. I think it's something to talk about.
So, he looks super young.
He looks like a 12-year-old.
He looks and it doesn't help that he's
5'8",
5'5".
He's 5'5".
I think he's all of like 135 pounds. So
he's basically a slightly bigger Darwin Quintero.
Yeah, but I'm taller than the guy, for frick's sakes.
He's actually a lot like Miguel's size.
Yeah, and so
I think he's smaller than Miguel, to be honest. At 5'5".
He's skinnier for sure, but I think Miguel's roughly that height, isn't he?
So he looks young, right? Yeah. And then there were some plays that he made when he came out that reminded me of DQ a little bit.
Oh, without
too many footies, too many of this.
He's different though. He's different in the same way. You can tell he's technical. You can tell he's good with that ball in his foot. And what I'm most excited about going forward is just seeing how well he places that ball. Because Darwin Quintero does that, in my opinion, because he wants to put himself into open space and have a chance to score. Mm-hmm. Where I think Tommy Chacon, at least on looking back on his U20 and U17 Uruguayan experience, to me it seems like he's looking for the same kind of space, and he has that same kind of technical ability, but I think he's looking to put it on a teammate.
I hope so, Dave.
I'm pretty sure that's what he's looking to do.
Because a couple of the plays he had when he came in for the first 10 minutes...
What'd you call it, David? Cynical, was it?
Yeah,
he's good at drawing a foul.
I was looking up to see who that was. I think it was Zusi. Fouled him. I mean, and I meant to say the foul was cynical, because there was a play where he completely nutmegged.
Well, he nutmegged?
I think it was Zusi, because Zusi had the yellow card, and I'm pretty sure that ended up in a yellow card.
Yeah, I think you're right.
And what it was phenomenal skill by Chacon. He completely nutmegged the defender, and the defender just leveled him. And that's a cynical foul, because he knew that there's no way under the sun he was going to stop him, and he fouled him.
Shortly, guys, shortly. Does it worry you guys a little bit that he came in like DQ with the foot play, or are you guys thinking that he's going to actually kind of be able to pass the ball off and not try to score as much as DQ does? I mean,
that's my opinion.
That's my question.
It depends on what we expect.
Right, and
I think as a 10, you want your 10 to be super technical.
And it's not a given that he will be asked to play the 10, especially if he Minnesota United... Well, what if Minnesota United picks up Darwin's option for next year?
They'll push Darwin to the right.
Okay.
Because that's where he's supposed to be.
So let's go into expectations, guys, because if he's coming in as Darwin's replacement, and we've seen what DQ can do. He's got some good streaks. He's got some bad streaks, right?
Right.
So we want Tommy Chacon to be kind of in the middle. We want him to be a playmaker like DQ is.
Right.
We also want to be the guy who will say, hey, I'm not the best guy right now. I just got to pass the ball off.
Right.
Do you think Tommy Chacon, in the limited time we've seen him, do you think he'll be better than DQ at that? Not needing to do things as much as DQ has wanted to do things.
I will say that based on the fact that he is Uruguayan, and the entire basis of South American football is that very team, a solid unit, I would say that he's going to be that type of player that is going to know his ability and know how to use his teammates. That's being very superficial, very kind of stereotypical view of South American football. But
Chacon,
that's how I look at it.
Yeah, and I agree. And Chacon just turned 19 years old. I mean, he's a young player. He was coming up with the Uruguayan national team, probably learning exactly what you just mentioned. And, we'll see how things go. Certainly they could change, but he signed a 5-year contract with Minnesota United. So if he grows into the player at 19 years old right now that Minnesota United wants him to be, I see no reason why he couldn't develop into that player.
All right.
Yeah, so, I think, in my opinion, as a 10, you want a 10 to be very technical, but you want a 10 to be able to understand how to create a play. And they picked him up to be a playmaker because we've never had a playmaker. Even with Darwin, we haven't had a playmaker. Darwin's not that type of guy.
No, he's not.
It's ultimately, if he grows into what you expect of a Uruguayan number 10 who is, without a doubt, playing for the senior national team. I mean, he's a starter on the youth teams. I have no concern that he won't turn out to be what we want him to be.
Before we get into this game, guys, I just want to say my opinion is that DQ came in here last year, blew the doors off.
Right.
I mean, he made us what we are today.
Yeah, I agree.
We rely on DQ so much,
right?
And so my concern, of course, is with United fans who are not as involved with soccer as we are.
Right.
Looking at Tommy Chacon as the next coming of DQ.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so I don't want Tommy to come in and be like, doesn't do anything for a while, and people saying, well, this is a terrible signing. He's 19. He's 19, and he'll get better.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
He doesn't have to do what DQ did, because DQ did it by himself last year.
Right.
And this year we've seen the struggles of DQ when he's got people around him that are as good or better than he is. So I don't want that to happen. I'm a little bit concerned about it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the big thing with American soccer fans is if they're not used to soccer, then I would agree with you completely. There's going to be that expectation that's not proper.
We played this game last year. We played it with Angelo. We talked on this podcast about expectations.
We still play with Angelo.
And we still do. Expectations about guys coming in from different leagues and not being used to MLS yet, and people going, well, he sucks.
Right.
And we're like, no, you got to wait a little. We got to give a little time.
Yeah, no player in the attacking half is going to just come in and be...
Yeah.
I mean, unless he's a superstar.
No.
I mean, there are some examples.
And
Zlatan, Carlos Vela.
Yeah.
I mean, there are examples of the different.
Yeah. Those are good examples and good MLS examples, because those players, more often than not, they do not miss from whether you're talking long range or short range. They just finish it, and that's been a big part of the problems that I say problems. As Minnesota United, they're sitting in in the playoffs if they started today, but they've had problems, and that would be one of them.
Yeah, and I mean, and let's look at it from the perspective of the team we're playing tonight.
Yeah.